When Rachel took our newborn and left, everyone said she couldn't handle motherhood. I believed that for 2 decades, until contractors renovating the property uncovered a concrete bunker sealed from the inside. I went down there myself. The smell of old baby powder and the sight of torn padded walls told me she never left. My name's Tom Barrett, and for 20 years, I carried a story that I thought was finished. My wife, Rachel, left one October morning in 2001 with our 2-week-old son, Ethan. I told myself she'd reached her breaking point. Postpartum depression, maybe fear. I believed she'd just walked away. Everyone told me to move on. The police searched. Flyers went up. Her sister blamed me. My mother blamed her. And eventually, the world forgot. But I never could. Even after I sold our old house, I'd drive by sometimes, just to see the lights in the windows, the life continuing without us. I'd sit there thinking how that house had once smelled like baby lotion and fresh coffee. How Rachel would hum, "You are my sunshine," to Ethan, even when he was still in her belly. I thought the past was sealed until the call came. It was early spring, and a construction foreman named Jeff Carson from a renovation company called me. He said they were doing foundation work on my old place. "You used to own 24 Larkspur, right?" he asked. I told him yes, and my heart started racing before he even finished. "There's something strange here," he said. "We found what looks like a room, concrete walls, no entrance from the house. It's sealed tight from the inside." I remember gripping the phone so hard my knuckles cracked. My first thought was, why sealed from the inside? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table Rachel and I had bought when we first got married. The grain of the wood was scarred with knife marks and spilled paint from old projects. I kept tracing them with my fingers, thinking about the small habits she had, how she used to double-check locks at night, how she'd flinch at sudden noises. Maybe I should have seen something back then. Maybe I ignored it because I didn't want to admit how fragile she really was. 2 days later, I drove 3 hours to Larkspur. The house looked smaller somehow. A young couple owned it now. They stood in the yard watching the backhoe idle near the garage. Jeff met me at the side gate, hard hat tucked under his arm. "Mr. Barrett, you might want to see this yourself," he said quietly. They dug a rectangular pit under what used to be our detached garage, a square of concrete, maybe 6 by 8 feet, had been cracked open. I climbed down the ladder slowly, boots scraping the metal rungs. When the flashlight beam hit the inside, I felt the air shift, thick, musty, and sweet like baby powder. The walls were padded, torn in places, fabric hanging like paper strips. The floor was littered with bits of plaster and rust flakes. There was a rocking chair in the corner. One I recognized instantly. I'd bought it for Rachel when she was pregnant. And that's when I knew. She hadn't run away. She'd been right here. The police came the next morning. They sealed the site, called it a potential recovery area. Words like recovery made my stomach twist. They found small things first. A rattle, the kind that came free in baby gift sets. A broken baby bottle. A strip of duct tape on the wall with faint handwriting. Naam Mustupor, Ethan's first cry. There were no remains, no clear evidence of what had happened, but I could feel her presence in that space, the carefulness of it, the way the walls were soundproofed with old blankets and insulation, as if she wanted to protect someone from the world above. A detective named Sarah Mendoza was assigned to the case. She treated me kindly, though she was clearly trying to manage my expectations. "We don't know when this was built, Mr. Barrett," she said. "But the foundation shows older cement than the rest of the house. Someone might have constructed it secretly before the addition went up." Rachel didn't have the money or tools for something like that, I told her. Unless she did it while I was working nights. Sarah nodded slowly. Could she have been afraid of something? I hesitated. Rachel used to talk about how she'd hear voices through the vents. She once told me someone was watching from the trees. I'd brushed it off as stress, hormones, exhaustion. We fought about it more than I like to admit. After the investigation paused, I couldn't let it go. I asked for copies of the old property blueprints, thinking maybe I could trace when the bunker was added. At the county archives, an elderly clerk helped me pull the microfilm files. She squinted at the old plans. That addition wasn't on the 1999 survey, she said. Looks like it got approved in mid-2000. Permit filed by Rachel Barrett. My throat went dry. She'd done it herself. Back home, I searched through an old banker's box of paperwork, the one I could never bring myself to throw away. Bills, postcards, ultrasound photos. Near the bottom was a small spiral notebook labeled baby room notes. Most of it was sketches, cribs, paint swatches, safety features. But then, near the back, I found words written in a shaky hand. The sound is getting louder. It's in the walls. I have to keep him safe. Tom doesn't believe me. They come when he's gone. If I build a room, they can't get in. Concrete keeps it quiet. He's safe when it's quiet. I read those pages over and over, the guilt swallowing me whole. She'd built that room for protection, not from me, not from the world, but from whatever terror her mind had convinced her was real. Still, one question kept burning. Why seal herself in? That night, I dreamed of her voice whispering through the vents again. Like she used to say, I woke up with the old house still in my head. every nail, every creak. I decided I had to go back. When I returned to the site, the police had finished their search. The owners allowed me 1 hour to walk through before they filled the pit. Inside, I ran my hand along the wall fabric. It was softer than I remembered. Beneath one corner, I noticed something. A seam that didn't match the rest. I pulled it back gently. Behind the padding, there was a small metal box bolted into the concrete. Inside the box were 3 things. A hospital ID bracelet labeled Ethan Barrett, a cassette tape, a folded note written in red crayon. I didn't open the note right away. My hands were shaking too badly. Instead, I took the tape to an old friend of mine, Mark, who runs a music store. He still has cassette players in his back room. When we played it, static filled the air, then a faint lullaby. Rachel's voice, off-key but tender. Hush, little baby. Then silence. After a minute, I heard a whisper. Her voice again, but different this time. Panicked. They're here again. I can hear them upstairs. He's not safe above. He's not safe above. The recording ended with a sharp click. Mark turned to me, pale. Tom, this wasn't someone pretending. She really believed it. I sat there for a long time, staring at the tape. I thought about how many times she'd tried to tell me something was wrong, and how I'd told her she was imagining things. When I finally unfolded the note, my heart nearly stopped. Written in that same crayon were the words, "He's not safe above," and beneath it, faintly, another line, "You have to listen now." The police couldn't determine how long she'd been down there, or how she'd managed to seal the entrance. The theory was that she'd built the bunker door into the foundation itself, maybe with a latch she could close from the inside. No one ever found remains. Not hers. Not Ethan's. The official word was undetermined disappearance. But I couldn't live with that. I started researching mental health facilities from that era, looking for any Jane Doe admissions around 2001. I called hospitals, cross-checked old intake logs. Most told me those records were sealed or destroyed. Then one evening, I got a call back from a nurse at a rural clinic in upstate Pennsylvania. She said, "We had a patient admitted in 2003 under the name Rachel B. She was transferred later to a long-term care home, but she disappeared after a fire in 2005. I asked if she remembered anything, a child, a photograph, anything. The nurse hesitated. She carried a pacifier on a string around her neck. She said it kept the baby close. That broke me. I hung up and cried for the first time in years. Even if she'd survived those 2 years, she'd been lost long before that. Lost in a world I couldn't reach. But one thing didn't sit right. The nurse said Rachel's file listed a contact number. Disconnected now, but still visible in the records. It wasn't mine. When I traced it, it led to a post office box rented by a man named Dennis Collier, our old neighbor. Dennis had always been helpful. He'd come by to mow the lawn when I was away, offered to help Rachel with the baby. I never thought much of it. When the police searched his property, they found dozens of recorded tapes, neighborhood sounds, voices, baby cries. He'd been recording through vents and baby monitors. The voices Rachel heard weren't in her head. They were real. Dennis had died years earlier, but his obsession explained everything. Rachel hadn't been delusional. She'd been terrified, and rightfully so. She built that bunker because someone really was listening through the walls. The truth hit me like a train. I dismissed her warnings as paranoia, told her she was just tired, even mocked her for checking locks. And while I worked nights, that man had been inside our yard, listening. I'll never forgive myself for that. The police believe Rachel took Ethan into the bunker to escape him. Something went wrong. Maybe she ran out of air. Maybe she sealed it too well. But I like to think she made a choice to protect him the only way she knew how, to keep him safe, even if it meant never coming back. When they filled in the pit under the garage, I stood there until the last bucket of dirt fell. I whispered a promise to her. I'm listening now. In the months since, I've started volunteering for a missing persons group. I help other families keep looking, even when the trail goes cold. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I still hear her lullaby in my head. Sleep, little one. You're safe below. And I wonder, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Subscribe if you believe that every truth, no matter how buried, eventually finds its way to the surface.